Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Warcry 2.0. So you may have seen that I've uploaded the Skaven video on Wednesday already, but sadly it did not have any sound. I had no idea what was going on, and yeah, I had to try and test many things until I realized that it's my headset that keeps turning off when nothing plays, so I'm now listening to music in the background and we should all be good. Anyways, guys, let's get right into it. First off, we're going to talk about the new units that were added, then we're going to look at their point values and new abilities, and last but not least, we're going to take a look at some lists that I'm going to sneakily remove here first. So, what have we got? We got the Plague Sensor Bearer. He's like a Plague Monk, but he gets an ability and slightly better stats. So he costs 90 points compared to a normal Plague Monk at 70, or really we should compare him to the Plague Monk with Staff. So you've got 20 points on top of the Plague Monk with Staff, 6 movement, toughness 3 and 8 wounds, which is the exact same as normal Plague Monk. 2-inch range, which is why I'm comparing him to the Staff version, 3 attacks, which is also the same as the Staff, but strength 4 and 2/4 damage. So you can see that the damage is quite a bit higher. He comes out to 4.0 damage on average, which is a full damage more than the Staff does, and 0.6 more than the normal Plague Monk does. So quite significant there. 20 points more though, so with this model being very squishy, it's not necessarily great value. However, he also gets an extra ability that we're going to look at. Then we've got the Doomflayer. He's a great, cool new model. He costs 175 points, so quite expensive here. But he is movement 7, which is awesome. Even better than the Skaven movement 6 that we're used to. He's got toughness of 4, which is nice, 18 wounds, so quite survivable as well. 1-inch range, 5 attacks, strength 5, 2/4 damage, so that is some massive damage output. 5 attacks is awesome, and strength 5 on top of that puts him at 8.4 damage on average, which is almost as good as what you are used from the Red Ogre and so on. So really good damage output and high movement. Really cool model. I think the Doomflayers, yeah, he's very nice. Then we've got the Warp Grinder, 120 points, 6-inch move, toughness 3, 12 wounds, so a lot more squishy and a little slower than the Doomflayer. But range 1, 4 attacks, strength 5, 2/5 damage. Also very good damage output, 7.4 damage on average, so still really nice there. The Warp Grinder also pretty good, especially since he's a lot cheaper. It's 55 points cheaper than Doomflayer. So yeah. Then we've got the Warpfire Thrower. He costs 105 points. Movement 6, toughness 3, 12 wounds, range of 8, which is not amazing to be honest, but not horrible. 3 attacks, strength 4, 1/4 damage. Honestly, for a ranged weapon, 3.0 damage on average is really not bad. Not bad at all. 105 points is not super cheap. I think you're paying a bit much for the 12 wounds here, which you don't necessarily need. He would be fine with 8 wounds and then maybe costing 10 to 20 points less. That would be preferable. Anyways, then we've got a Gutter Runner. He's basically like a slightly better version of the Night Runner. Where's the Night Runner? Here he is. So he costs 10 points more. You get the same speed, same toughness, 2 wounds extra on top compared to the Night Runner. Same range, also 2 attacks, strength 3, 1/3 damage instead of 1/2 damage that the Night Runner has. So you're slightly better with your damage output. and a bit more survivable for 10 points. It's fine, but the Night Runner is not a great model, and the Gutter Runner is also slightly better in melee, but still not good. So I think the Gutter Runner is a bit of one that you better leave at home. Then we've got the Warlock Jezzail, so the sniper guy, 165 points, and is quite expensive for a ranged unit. Movement 6, toughness 3, 12 wounds. a range of 20, which is massive. That's a huge range. 1 attack only. Strength 4 for 10 damage. So I think that's the same profile the long strike crossbow for Stormcast Eternals has. The average damage here, it says 3 damage on average, but the issue with this is that an average is not very close when you only have 1 attack. Averages get more reliable the more attacks you have. For this model, you either do 0 damage, you do 4, or you do 10. There's really no other outputs there. And I think for 1 attack that you cannot buff in any way, he's a little bit expensive. If you want to use him, I would probably sit him in a corner and then shoot at toughness 3 chaff models who have 8 wounds. Because if you shoot at toughness 3, you are going to hit on a 3+. Do that twice with both your activations, and you're likely to deal 8 damage because you're gonna hit twice. And like if you do roll a crit, you're going to one-shot the enemy, and then you can move on to the next. So that's probably the best way to use this guy. But yeah, again, I think 165 points is a bit much for this model. Then we got the Scriagolite, and talking about points being too much, this model is it's special. 105 points, not cheap at all. Movement 6, toughness 3, 8 wounds, so absolute chaff tier, average chaff tier level here. A range of 6, which is horribly low. 1 attack, strength 4 for 3/6 damage. 2 points of damage on average. It's a horribly bad model, a really bad model. 105 points is a lot of points, and you're paying that for 1 attack with a 6-inch range weapon. That's garbage. That's absolute garbage. Like, even if you do deal those 3 damage every turn, if you get kinda lucky. Now what's 3 damage? It's not much, and if anyone gets his fingers on the Scriagolite, he's going to die, and you've lost 105 points you didn't do much in the first place. So really bad model. That's all our new units. Let's move on to the new leaders. We got the Knight Leader. He's basically like the Night Runner leader option. 165 points, which is quite cheap for a leader actually. Movement 6, toughness 3, 16 wounds, so at least double the wounds of a normal Night Runner, a bit more survivable there. I've put his melee attacks in here because his ranged attack are basically the same as the Gutter Runners, and yeah, they are not great. You wouldn't bring a leader for ranged attacks, especially since the Skaven leader abilities really rely on your leader being close to your other models, so you wouldn't want to use ranged attacks there. So anyways, he's got a range of 1, 4 attacks, strength 3, 2, 4 damage, so not horrible actually. 4.1 damage on average. The Knight Leader is honestly not too bad, but he's not great either. Then we've got the Deathmaster, who's like the upgraded version of the Knight Leader. Costs 200 points, which is the most expensive leader model in the warband. However, he does get 7-inch move, which is really nice. Toughness 3, 20 wounds, so a lot more survivable. Also, for this melee weapon, he's got a range of 1, 5 attacks. 5 attacks is always very good. 5 attacks is generally very nice at strength 4 for 2/4 damage, putting him at 6.7 damage on average, which is really nice. So he can deal a lot of damage, and he's likely to get in there with his 7-inch movement. We'll also have a look at the new ability for both of these guys, and yeah, so I like the Death Master model. Then we've got the Master Moulder. He's 140 points, which is very, very cheap for a leader. However, once you see what he does, you're going to think it's very expensive. Movement 6, toughness 3, 20 wounds, so at least he's quite survivable for his points cost. A range of 3 with his whip, 3 attacks, strength 3, 1/3 damage. That's only 2 points of damage on average. That is really garbage. And the only, well, he gets a new ability, but you're never going to use it. So the one ability he's got that's actually useful is the Packmasters. And the Packmaster only costs 65 points. So in my opinion, never bring the Master Moulder, but bring a Packmaster instead. He's just cheaper, it will do the same job, and you might as well then bring a good leader instead of Master Moulder. Then we've got the Clawlord. He's 180 points, so quite well, not that expensive, but more in the kind of more expensive tier for the leaders here. Toughness 6, movement 6, toughness 4, 20 wounds. So if we compare him to the Death Master, because they're both kind of like damage dealing focused models, he's a bit slower but a bit tougher. He's got 1-inch range, 4 attacks, not 5. Strength 4, 2/5 damage. So you can see his damage output is slightly lower than that of the Death Master. What's very sad about the Clawlord, he used to have a great triple that allowed him to get a free attack and then disengage. That was a very nice triple. Sadly, that triple is gone completely, so the Clawlord does not get any special abilities for himself. He only gets the generic Skaven leader ability. That is sad. I think that was one of the things that made the Clawlord very, very good and competitive, so I don't know if he's still worth his 180 points. Then we've got the Plague Priest. He's also 180 points. Movement 6, toughness 4, 20 wounds. Yeah, that is survivable stuff there. Range of 2, 4 attacks, strength 3, 2/4 damage. So 4.1 damage on average. It's not horrible. It's the same the Knight Leader does, for example, but he's more expensive. A bit tougher as well. He's okay. And the thing is, what you're getting is an ability that you don't really want. It's the same that the Bringer of the Word has, so no new ability there, but the Bringer of the Word ability. And yeah, it's just a bit lackluster, I think, the Plague Priest. He's not horrible. Then we've got the Warlock Bombardier, Warlock Engineer, and Arch Warlock. I'm going to talk about these 3 together because they are slightly more expensive or less expensive versions of each other. So you can see that they range between 165 and 185 points. All of them got movement 6, toughness 3, with the exception of the Arch Warlock, who's a bit tougher, and 20 wounds each. The Bombardier and the Engineer both have ranged attacks. However, the Engineer's is so bad I'm not going to look at it. But the Bombardier has a 15-inch range, which is nice. 2 attacks, strength 4, 2/4 damage. 2.7 damage on average. It's not great. However, at least he's got the 15-inch range. I do have to stress again, though, that one of the most important abilities for Skaven is the generic leader ability, which is only useful when you're next to the fight. So the Warlock Bombardier is gonna be less useful there. Then we've got the Engineer. He's got 3 attacks, strength 3, 2/4 damage, so not great damage output at all. And the Arch Warlock, who's got also 3 attacks, but strength 5 and 2/4 damage, which you can see amasses at least to 5 more damage 2 more damage on average, so 5 points of damage. So I personally think the Arch Warlock is worth the 20 extra points over the Engineer, because you are getting the extra toughness and you are getting the extra strength, which is gonna be nice. And then we've got the Grace here. He's 175 points, movement 6, toughness 3, 20 wounds. And the horrible generic magic user attack, so 7-inch range, 2 attack, strength 3, 3/6 damage. Yeah, not great. 475 points, too expensive in my opinion. Anyways guys, let's move on. So here we can see the points values of these guys. You can see that many of them do not look like they're good point value, which is of course also due to the fact that they are leaders. Leaders tend to have worse point value in general, but let's talk about some specific ones here. The Plague Sensor Bearer, good damage output. However, if you compare him to the normal Plague Monk, slightly worse in terms of point value, because he's 20 points more expensive. He's 90 points. Very squishy though. Then we talked about this, the Doomflayer. Really good damage output. Insane values here. Good survivability and great damage output. The Warp Grinder, for being this cheap, 7.4 damage is insane, and therefore you can see the 0.06 value here for damage per point value, which is top tier. That's the toppest tier. That is something you see very rarely. The vast majority of warbands don't have any fighters with that kind of damage value, so the Warp Grinder, really good model, together with the Doomflayer basically. Then something also worth pointing out, the Warpfire Thrower. For a ranged model, being in the 0.03 tier, so on the average damage per point value is really good. So, and as far as ranged unit goes, he's quite viable. Then we've got a lot of not so good stuff. Then this is something I want to point out: the Deathmaster is good damage per point value, as is the Clawlord. Both of these guys are nice damage per point value. Yeah, and then we've got the Arch Warlock, who's also actually pretty decent for his points value. So these three are going to do some punching themselves. The others will have to rely on good abilities in order to actually be useful. Yeah, so that's really it for the point values. Let's have a look at the new abilities. This is not new. It's a double that most infantry models get. I call it infantry. Yeah, you know what I mean. Most of the small models have a 4+ bonus disengage action, so they have to roll a die, and on a 4+ they can disengage. You got a double for the Packmaster, which is obviously amazing. Gives a bonus attack action for one of your beast models, so a Red Ogre basically, or a Giant Red, but you'll want to use it on a Red Ogre. Then you got a triple for all the Storm Fiends and Red Ogres, which is the normal charge. So you, after a move action, when you finish a move next to an enemy, you can deal damage by the value of your ability. We've got the double for the Storm Vermin, which prevents your leader from being attacked as long as he's within 1 inch of that Storm Vermin. It's not bad. It's an interesting one. Sadly, Storm Vermin themselves aren't super point efficient, so that's the one issue here. Then we've got the new Plague Sensor Bearer ability. It's a triple. Basically, all enemies within 3 inch of him, on a 3+, they take half the value in damage. So if you roll for each of the enemies, and on a 3+, they are going to take, say, probably 2 damage. So it's not a great ability. You have other uses for triples in this warband that are going to be better. However, if you do have an enemy that is rolling a lot of models and they are tightly packed, this might actually be quite good. And then you've got a quad for all the Scryer models, which gives you a bonus attack and adds half the value of the quad to the damage of hits and crits for that attack action. I calculated it, and for example, if you take the Doomflayer, he does 5 attacks. 4 of those will land on average because he's strength 5, and half the value is normally 2 damage, so that's going to add 8 damage on average to an attack by the Doomflayer. So in that one bonus attack, he's going to do 16 damage. Say you had to move in once, so you're wasting 1 activation on that, and then you can attack once normally and once with the quad ability. You're going to deal a hell of a lot of damage. I think that's totally worth it. Great ability there, so that's nice. That's very nice. They added that to the Scurry units. It's keep in mind this is only for melee attacks, so you can't use that on the Warp Fire Thrower, for example. Yeah, but you could use it with the Arch Warlock as well, for example, if you wanted to. He only has 3 attacks, so it's not going to be as good, but yeah, it's something you could use if you need it. Anyways, what abilities for the leaders do we have? Well, we have the Grey Seer. He has a double that buffs the damage output of his ranged attack, which is super weird because the ranged attack does already 3 to 6 damage, so it's already good damage. The issue with it is it being low attacks and low range, and it doesn't buff either of that, so I see no point in bringing the Grey Seer. That's a bad ability. Then we've got a double for all the Scryer heroes, so for the Warlocks and the Arch Warlock. It's basically you can pick a number of enemies equal to your value. They have to be within 6 inches of you and within 3 inches of each other, and then you can deal 1 damage to each of them. That's not amazing. You might use it sometimes. It's only a double, so it's cheap. So throwing a couple of damage out there, even for a double, can totally be worth it. And sometimes enemies just have 1 health remaining or something, and you want to get rid of them. It's not bad. Then we've got a double for the Master Moulder. He can heal a beast half of the value of the ability. So that's gonna be at best 3 health, normally 2 health. It's just so bad. So bad. I don't know. What's the point in this ability? Oh, the Master Moulder sucks. Then we've got a triple for your Ashen heroes, so for the Knight Leader and the Death Master, which is they get a bonus move or disengage action, and then add 1 to their crit damage for the remainder of the activation. That is really good. A triple for a bonus move is already great in my opinion. Not so much for a bonus disengage, I think, but for a bonus move especially. Keep in mind the Deathmaster can move 7 inches. So that's a massive bonus move you're getting for that triple. And then also you're adding a bit of extra damage. So really nice there. I think the Deathmaster, yeah, that's a great extra ability for the Deathmaster. And then you're also getting the triple for all the leaders, which you always had, which is adding half the value of the ability to attack characteristic for friendly models within 3 inches. That is so good. It's one of the reasons why Skaven are such a good warband, because this ability is great. It requires you to be close to the big fights though. It requires you to get in there with your leader, which is why I'm not in favor of Skaven leaders that are ranged models. I think Skaven leaders need to be able to get in there and do their own damage output, and then throw in that triple and really buff up all your guys surrounding them. And then we've got the quad for your Pestilence heroes, which is enemies can't use abilities within 3 inches of them. So that's for the new Plague Priest and for the old Plague Monk leader. So yeah, that's really it, and now let's have a look at what kind of list I would prefer bringing. So I would still go with a lot of Plague Monks, because they were and they are some of the most point efficient models out there. So I'd bring 5 straight away. Then I'd bring a Packmaster Red Ogre combo. That is still really good. The Packmaster is on itself not great, but only 65 points, and he really enables the Red Ogre to be a massive powerhouse. The Red Ogre is already a great fighter with 10.7 damage on average, and for just a double you can attack again with the Red Ogre if you have the Packmaster nearby and throw those 10 damage out again. So what a model, great stuff there. Then we've got the Giant Rats. I would bring 2 of those, just for possibly objective grabbing. So if you have a treasure you need to grab and run away with, or something like that, or need to like catch up with a model and deal 1 point of damage or something, the Giant Rat is going to be your thing. Really nice there because of the high movement and very cheap points value. Keep in mind that the Giant Rat is exactly half the points cost of a Plague Monk, so if you feel like you need more Giant Rats, you can always drop a Plague Monk from this list and get 2 more Giant Rats, so you can exchange these as you want. And then we've got the Plague Censer Bearer. I'm taking 1 of them, which is mainly due to the fact that I had 20 points left, so I upgraded one of the Plague Monks to a Plague Censer Bearer. Basically, he's slightly better than the Plague Monks, and there's no use in wasting 20 points, so you might as well bring the Plague Censer Bearer. Maybe you're going to use his ability at some point, probably not, but still, why not bring him? And then I would use the Death Master as the new leader. In the past I thought the Stormvermin leader was one of the better options, also because he's like tough enough and he can fight well enough to be in that front line. However, the Death Master is he's faster, he deals more damage, and he also gets a great triple ability. So I think the Death Master is my number 1 choice for leader now. Which puts us at 11 models, which is a lot of models, and exactly 1000 points. Something I will mention though is that with this new book you got a lot of options for other warbands here. This is just one option, and I think it's a good one, but I think you could go others. If you want to go all Scryer, for example, you can totally do that now, because you've got the Doomflayer, who's really good. That's a super good model. You've got the Warp Grinder, who's a super good model. You've got the 4 Warp Fire Thrower, which is actually a pretty good model for ranged. And you got good leader options. You can take the Arch Warlock, bring, for example, 2 Doomflayers, then fill up the rest with Warp Grinders, Warp Fire Throwers, and you're going to have a nice looking Scryer warband. So there's quite a few ways to make this work, and on top of that, never forget you can always stuff in a couple of Giant Rats into any build if you need more models and more board control. So there's definitely great stuff in this book for Skaven. I think that's very exciting times for Skaven. What we're not seeing here is any kind of nerf to them. So some people were hoping that this book would make the power rating for the warbands more in line with each other. What I'm seeing here is a massive buff for Skaven. Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how everyone performs at the end when I do the tier list, but I don't think Skaven are going to lose a lot there. Anyways guys, thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one.